The Daily Items Francis Scarcella recently sat down with 8 local school district superintendents to talk about the current state of cyber schools and how it's affecting their districts.
All right, well, first of all, thank you, everybody, for coming and participating. We here at the Daily Item felt that this was an important issue for Valley residents and parents, and actually students, to see what they are missing in school as opposed to going to cyber school, or vice versa in that matter. So first thing we want to do is go around and introduce each school district that we have here today.
Pete Cheddar, Superintendent, Mount Carmel Area School District.
Dr. Kathy Keegan, Superintendent of Milton Area School District.
Jim Becker, Superintendent, Southern Columbia Area School District.
Alan Hack, Superintendent of the Warrior Run School District.
Jason Memo, Superintendent of Chickasaw Area District.
Dan Lichtel, Superintendent of Mifflinburg Area School District.
Dave Campbell, Superintendent, Lime Mountain School District.
Frank Jankowski, Superintendent of Selinsgrove Area School District.
Okay, so with that being said, I know that a lot of you have been very vocal about this. So I'm going to start with, obviously, with Dave Campbell here from Lime Mountain. Tell us right now where the district stands as opposed to 5 years ago with cyber schools.
5 years ago, we were probably at about 31 or 32. In 2001, go all the way back, we started with 1 last year because of masks, whatever, COVID. We peaked at 102 at the end of the year. It was about 94. So it's an additional $350,000 the budget that we had not budgeted. I think in normal years we'll round out around 50 to 60. Maybe start at 62, drop to about 52 when they need to come back because they're not making it in the cyber school.
So the question that I would have on that is, even if the number was 102 or 150, whatever the number may be, why does in your case the Lime Mountain School District have to pay that cost?
That's legislation. Being one of the long-termers in 1998, then President Governor Ridge enacted the cyber charter. And at that point in time, to get it through maybe some pro-public education legislators, we were promised 28 to 29% reimbursement. That no longer exists. The biggest struggle for years in our area, we were often, probably in 2006, 7, another representative that doesn't represent our district, I mean, we're sitting at the IU, and some might have been there, not many, said, well then, start your own.
And that's what you did.
And that's what we did. And the problem is, and you can talk to everyone, our cyber schools are a third the cost, and we probably give them more. I'm beyond the cost. I think recent legislation with do-over, the dichotomy of our legislation is just baffling to me. They did the do-over because people had learning loss because of not being in schools.
And now they go to cyber school.
And now they do not question cyber schools. It's even bigger. You can probably go around the table. It's just not the money. It's not right for the masses. And as we advertise for positions, I'm near the end, but it's only going to get worse because the talent pool is shrinking. And I can't imagine what cybers are getting in applications as we get less and less. And
For teaching positions?
For teaching positions. And we've been mandated millions of Pennsylvania taxpayer dollars on professional development and improving people. And to not see any of that imposed on the cyber school, it's just disingenuous, the arguments.
And Dr. Bendel, Shikellamy is obviously also rose. We talked prior to, you said that they were originally I think like 99, and then went, it's like 140 or something, and now so you set new standards now.
Yeah, so if you go back to 17-18 school year, we were about 78 kids. If you go to this pre-COVID, year before COVID, we were about 99. COVID increased that number to, at the higher range, 164, which is a 66% increase. That was about $700,000 to our budget that we did not budget. Well, I shouldn't even say post-COVID, but currently that number has dropped to 140, but that's still an increase of 47%. The piece that I want people to understand is across the state of Pennsylvania, schools have different tuition rates. So it's based on our budget. They range regular ed from just over $8,000 per student to $22,000 across the state. Special ed ranges from $18,000, slightly over $18,000 to $53,000 across the state. Now, what this means is different schools pay different amounts of money towards their programs. But when Shikellamy sends a kid, we pay $27,000 for a special ed kid, where another school might only pay $18,000, and another school might pay $53,000. So you could argue that each of the school districts have different tuition rates because that's the amount of money we spend on education. So the education there may be different, but we're paying different rates when we send it to a charter school. So where we pay 27 and another school pays 18, they're not getting a different education. They're going to the same cyber charter school.
So, and I may be wrong on this, but I guess with each district in various sections of our counties here, Sunbury in itself is like over 50-some% rentals. Okay, so with that being said, those people who come and they move in and they rent apartments, they don't pay school taxes because they're not homeowners, so they don't pay property taxes, I should say. So if they have 2, 3, 4 kids and all 4 of them go to cyber school, that's money that Shikellamy is not even getting back from those people that are renting anyway. Now, Lime Mountain, obviously, you won't have as much rentals out there, but is that a contributing factor in areas as well?
Yeah, I think you nailed it. I think if a kid lives within the district and they choose to go to a cyber school, the district and the taxpayers pay the cost of that tuition to go out the doors to outside cyber.
Has that number ever been tracked?
I don't have that data in front of me.
Yeah.
As far as rentals versus.
Yeah.
So I don't have that in front of me.
That was just something that was brought up, and when I did some research on it, I saw Milton has a lot as well. So when the outer areas, like you're not going to have that, Warrior Run is not really going to have that as much, but where they rent and 2 or 3 kids go to that school, then they may bounce another apartment, but they're not getting those property taxes out of there. So you'd be surprised at the off balance of what's coming into what's going out. So,
Francis, if I may,
Yeah.
about 2 years ago, might be 3, and others could help me. Not only did we question accountability then, but accountability was weakened when the schools weren't tracked. It became more difficult. We weren't allowed to track the attendance, and that just is a segue into what you're saying. And we're sitting here worrying about holding them accountable and the financial gain, and it just seems it's like throwing paint against the wall, because not only are we not doing that, we've made them less accountable.
you'd almost have to track it all the time, which is where I was going, and a big part of that. So just say 100, and these numbers aren't, I'm just throwing them out there, but say you have 150 kids that are in it, and 12 of them are Shikellamy's paying for, but you don't know that they now moved to Milton. So you'd be paying that to Milton. Now I know they've started to track, like you said, but I guess years ago, how much of that fell through the cracks that was money that was this district was paying for there and vice versa. Have you seen a lot of that? Has anybody up here seen a lot of that?
So, Shikellamy, we do residency checks of students, so we try to keep a handle on whether people that we're paying bills for outside cyber actually reside here. So we do that regularly. What we do see, though, is that families move into the area, never set foot in the Shikellamy School District, and have already been in outside cyber, so have 2 or 3 children, 4 children. They move into the area, they don't come to the public school system, and they continue to go to the outside cyber. So we are losing students that have never set foot in the district.
But some other districts paying that fee.
Well, once they move in, we'd be paying a fee.
If you're notified is what I'm saying,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
So you would, if you weren't notified, you'd have no idea. And I know, in Milton, you as well have been very vocal about this as well, and you guys did a major thing on that. So explain this situation in Milton.
So one of the newest phenomenon that we saw this year in Milton is after we paid a cyber bill, we were being invoiced again. And so we would go back and say, we've already paid this invoice, and we had no recourse initially to suggest that we had paid the bill. And we challenged it and said, how are you expected to pay a bill when you don't even get an invoice for the bill, yet you can show that you paid the bill? And we had to go through a process that argued that we had already paid this bill, that we had to show proof of the payment before we would be reimbursed for the payment that we already made for the cyber school. It happened to us twice. It was close to about $37,000. Of course, it involves some legal counsel fees because now you're going to your attorneys and you're saying, what's our recourse? We got billed, we paid the bill, we got billed again. And really they just attach your basic ed subsidy and it's removed from your payment. So you really don't have a recourse to stop payment. So that was something we faced. With the newest PIM system and student identifiers, it does give us better opportunity to track where kids are. And so that has helped tremendously along with that truancy piece. Have we seen an increase? Significant. Especially this year with the pandemic. And as you were talking about that earlier, Francis, I was like, wow, we were holding pretty close to about 88 students from 17-18 to 19-20. In the year 2020 to 21, we had 253 students enrolled in cyber education, both in Milton Cyber School and also in external cyber schools. That will rock your budget. And when you're looking at $790,000 versus $180,000, you're asking yourself, where am I getting $600,000 from? Because we're all budgeted so tightly. So it has been a challenge for us. We have worked collectively with CSIU and we use their e-tool. One of the benefits of it is that you're able to use your own teaching staff at a reduced cost. And as Dr. Bendel said earlier, our special education students, if they're receiving education in cyber education, costs $25,000. Regular education is $12,000. It doesn't cost any of us that much to educate a child. So that's probably where Dave is talking about, this is just so unfair to public education, yet they're under the auspices of public education and operating on a whole different funding formula.
If I could, just one thing, and it made me think, and we have a tech school where it costs $1.2 million tech school, and if more kids go, it doesn't up what it costs to run that tech school, it just lowers the fee per child. It's one of the very few institutions where they have that cost, and the more kids they get, it's still, plus it just makes no sense. You follow what I'm saying? The price per child should come down as more kids enroll. In the cyber world, no, they just might spend a little more of that on advertisement, that it's free and things like that. So that's the disingenuousness of their double talk.
How about in Mount Carmel?
I think, our story is very similar to everyone's in this room. At Mount Carmel, last year was a rough year for us. We got up to about 80 to 85 students. For our budget, we're a $21 million overall budget. About $950,000 is spent on outside cyber. So it's a big, big part of our budget. I think our job, and I know most of, if not all of the superintendents in this room, you hear us talking about this, is more education. Trent, you talked about this. A lot of our parents, I don't think, understand. Our district has spent a lot of time this summer trying to reach out to all these outside cyber school students and basically trying to sell ourselves. I know we all believe this. The best education for our students, especially on the heels of now, this will be the third school year affected by COVID. And the best education for our students in Mount Carmel area is to be in the classroom with Mount Carmel area teachers. I think virtual school and cyber school is an option for certain families, and we don't deny that. But again, when we have our own cyber school, ours is called Tornado Elite Learning Academy, that we can offer students the same education at a fraction of the cost. Again, we talk about it all the time as an administration team. It's a Burger King, McDonald's, Home Depot, Lowe's. It's the same thing. It's like if we walk through a grocery store line today and buy something for $10 and the person behind us buys the same thing for $4. How is that fair? So it's more of a job where we my administration, our secretarial staff, we've really tried to reach out and resell Mount Carmel area to our families. And it's amazing what you hear back. Some of the families literally said, I didn't know you had it. So again, things like this is very important. So we appreciate the Daily Item for doing things like this, putting things on our website, communicating. I know the group of us did a radio spot through the CSIU last fall. So again, getting the word out to our community about the cost. And at Mount Carmel area, again, it's rising, and I don't know how much longer we could stave off the disaster scenario coming down the line.
Be sure to check out part 2 for more of this conversation.